What if we told you that the real story behind Jungkook's sudden shift in Switzerland was only the surface of something far more complex, perhaps even dangerous? What if the emotional tremor millions witnessed in just a few frames of video was actually the ripple effect of a truth he never meant to discover, and one the world wasn't meant to see? As cameras clicked and fans cheered outside the iconic Dolder Grand Hotel in Zurich, no one imagined that within its luxury halls, a tightly guarded secret would begin to crack open. Jungkook had always been the epitome of calm under pressure. His discipline, his work ethic, his ability to shine even when the weight of the world sat quietly on his shoulders was legendary. But that night, something broke. And it wasn't just a momentary lapse. It was the beginning of a spiral that not even those closest to him could explain. The word Papion started surfacing across fan forums like a ghost no one could quite capture. Tweets, Tumblr threads, Reddit discussions, everyone had theories. Was it a code name for project? A symbolic nod to something from his past? A term of endearment? Or perhaps a hidden track title? But those who were physically present backstage said the moment the message flashed across the screen, he changed. And not theatrically. Genuinely. One person, whose job was to manage the lighting cues during Jungkook's set, told us he noticed a drop in Jungkook's rhythm. Literally. He was off by half a beat, the technician whispered, visibly uncomfortable. Only those who know his precision would even catch it. But it was there, like a weight suddenly pressed down on him. So we dug deeper. We followed the trail through obscure data leaks, employee exit interviews, anonymous tips. That's when we found it, a single internal memo labeled private, flagged under Papion protocol. It was encrypted, restricted to executive-level clearance, and marked urgent in 3 languages. What was this memo trying to hide, and how did it end up in Jungkook's hands? Some believe it was never meant for him. Others believe it absolutely was, that someone inside the company wanted him to see it. The contents of that memo? Partially redacted. But the portions we obtained referenced an anomaly in biometric records, along with a directive to inform only in the event of direct data breach. What breach occurred? What biological data could possibly justify that kind of secrecy? Theories range from the medical to the psychological, but the common thread in every version is this. Jungkook wasn't supposed to note, and the days following the incident, his behavior shifted dramatically. He canceled 2 unannounced schedules, avoided direct eye contact during fan interactions, and perhaps most telling of all, uncharacteristically deleted a personal voice memo he had just uploaded hours earlier. The memo had begun with a soft melody and a whisper. "You ever feel like the sky's watching you?" The recording stopped there. Why would someone like Jungkook, an artist known for sharing pieces of his emotional world through song and speech, suddenly pull back? Some army believe he's being silenced. Others argue he's choosing silence because the truth is still unraveling within him. Whichever version is true, one fact remains. We haven't heard from Jungkook the way we usually do, not since Switzerland. One of the most emotional clues surfaced during an otherwise ordinary fan sign video. When asked about his time in Europe, Jungkook smiled politely, nodded, and then paused. For 6 seconds, he stared into space. His lips moved, but no words came out. One lip reader claimed he said, "They're still watching." No context. No clarification. Just those 3 words, so open-ended and haunting they could either be poetic or paranoid that we requested official comment from Big Hit, now under HYB labels. The response was cold and formal. All artist health records remain confidential. Jungkook continues to perform under the full support of his team. But that's not what we're hearing from insiders, who describe a newly restricted digital environment where even private correspondences are now routed through third-party approval systems. Why the sudden need for oversight? Why now? Rumors have since spiraled about the Papion protocol being something far greater than a privacy breach. Some allege it's a contingency operation for managing artist vulnerabilities. Others say it's a monitoring system. But one thing is certain. If Jungkook received a message linked to this protocol, it wasn't by accident, and it wasn't benign. The emotional toll is visible, even in the smallest gestures. His posture has shifted. His speech tempo has slowed. And although his smile remains intact for the cameras, longtime fans say there's something distant in his gaze. A hollow space that didn't exist before. One fan wrote, "It's like he's singing through glass. We can see him, but we can't reach him anymore." Why should any of this matter to the public? Because this isn't just about one artist. This is about the systems around them. It's about what happens when the line between professional image and personal identity blurs so deeply that even the artist forgets who he is beneath the facade. What happens when the price of perfection becomes a person's peace? If Jungkook's experience in Switzerland teaches us anything, it's that behind the glamour, behind the sold-out stadiums and platinum records, there is a very human story. One filled with silence, secrets, and perhaps even sabotage. And while fans continue to speculate, piece together footage, and try to reach the heart of the mystery, one question still echoes louder than the rest. What exactly did Jungkook discover in Switzerland, and who didn't want him to know? Until that answer comes, we'll be watching. Not with invasive eyes, but with respect, with curiosity, and with hope. Hope that one day, when he's ready, the silence will break, and the truth will speak louder than the click of any shutter or the glare of any spotlight. Hope, as fragile as it may seem, is sometimes all a global fandom can cling to. But in Jungkook's case, it is also the one thing that feels increasingly difficult to hold on to. Because as the days since Switzerland turn into weeks, and the public statements remain frustratingly vague, the silence becomes more than just absence. It becomes an answer in itself. Not long after the Zurich event, a grainy clip surfaced online. It shows Jungkook seated alone at a cafe terrace near Lake Geneva, wearing a black hoodie, earphones in, staring into the water. A fan filmed it from afar, respectfully silent, but what they captured spoke volumes. In a moment he didn't know he was being watched, his shoulders slumped forward. Not with exhaustion, but with weight. The kind of weight one carries not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. That footage was quietly removed just hours after it was uploaded. But not before it was downloaded, shared, and dissected. Some claimed it was nothing, just a tired idol taking a break. But those who followed Jungkook for years know better. He doesn't retreat without reason. He doesn't cancel without cause. And he certainly doesn't disappear emotionally in the middle of a comeback season unless something deeply personal is unfolding behind the curtain. A rare interview surfaced, barely 5 minutes long, filmed before Switzerland but released after. In it, when asked about future plans, Jungkook answered in a tone uncharacteristically ambiguous, "I think it depends on what the world gives back to me." A cryptic answer, easily dismissed by most. But when paired with everything that's happened since, it suddenly feels prophetic. As if he already sensed something coming. As if he already knew. Industry insiders have privately admitted that Jungkook's travel itinerary post-Switzerland was altered at the last minute. Security was increased, not decreased. Additional personnel were assigned not for public safety, but for internal monitoring. What were they protecting him from? Or perhaps, the more unsettling question is, who? In one of the most unsettling discoveries yet, a technician from Jungkook's production team revealed that during a sound check in Switzerland, the backing track failed to load correctly not once, but twice. The only data file that did load, marked JJK_Papion 32 cis, was one no one recognized, and one that caused a short system crash. The team deleted it, chalked it up to a naming error. But someone made a copy. And when that file was opened days later, it contained nothing musical. No beats, no vocals. Only a scrolling stream of numbers and letters. Embedded deep in the string was a single, chilling line. He must not forget who he was before the silence. Who planted that file? Was it meant for Jungkook? Or was it a warning for those around him? Suddenly, what felt like an emotional breakdown begins to feel more like an awakening. And awakenings are dangerous when you exist in an industry that thrives on image, silence, and control. We reached out to a behavioral analyst who reviewed the videos of Jungkook before and after Switzerland. Her analysis was sobering. You're looking at someone undergoing a radical cognitive shift. His micro-expressions are telling. He's not just reacting emotionally, he's processing betrayal. And betrayal, once experienced, reshapes everything to the outside world. Jungkook remains composed. He's made selective appearances, smiled for photos, responded to fans on Weverse with kindness. But his words are increasingly introspective. He writes about being more than music and about finding the self that lives beneath performance. He shares less of his meals, more of his thoughts. He no longer posts spontaneous selfies. Instead, we get images of skies, water, empty hotel hallways. Visual metaphors for solitude, stillness, and perhaps surveillance. Every moment he's captured, now, is accompanied by questions. Was that look sadness or resolve? Was that pause hesitation or fear? Is he trying to communicate something without breaching an NDA? Could he be trying to tell us everything without saying anything? Fans aren't just watching. They're decoding. Hidden messages are suspected in the lyrics of unreleased demos. A shadow in the corner of a live stream. A sudden cutaway in a behind-the-scenes video. All of it seems deliberate, like a puzzle only those who truly care will solve. Whether these are intentional signals or the projection of a worried fandom, the effect is the same. Jungkook has become a symbol of something much bigger than one incident. He's become the face of the question no one wants to answer. What does the entertainment machine do to the humans inside it? And more importantly, when those humans start to remember, to resist, to speak in quiet ways, how does the machine respond? The story of Jungkook in Switzerland isn't over. It can't be. Because what's at stake is no longer just a schedule or his next song drop. What's at stake is truth, authenticity, autonomy, and that is something that stretches beyond K-pop, beyond fandoms, beyond headlines. It strikes at the very core of celebrity culture in the digital age, because if even Jungkook, beloved, respected, careful, can find himself spiraling in the wake of something hidden, then none of us can look at fame the same way again. We owe it to him, and to all artists, to keep asking, what happened in Switzerland? And until the truth is fully told, we won't stop watching, we won't stop listening, and that silence, the one that stretches between Jungkook's last unguarded gaze and the polished veneer of his next scheduled appearance, is growing louder with every passing day. Silence doesn't just fill the gaps between words, it echoes. And in Jungkook's case, it echoes in ways that feel more deliberate than accidental. It's as though he is speaking through the spaces, through the absences, through what he chooses not to say. And the weeks following his departure from Switzerland, something curious happened on social media. A series of posts on Jungkook's fan page, which had always been positive, polished, even playful, were quietly edited. Tiny details were removed. A reference to a sunset view in Zurich vanished. A mention of resting with a clear head was swapped for something more neutral. Casual fans missed it, but those who archived every word noticed. They began sharing screenshots, circling timestamps, questioning why the revisions were made after the fact. Was this a PR cleanup? Or was someone rewriting the timeline? An even more subtle twist emerged when one fan noticed that Jungkook's playlists had also shifted. Songs he'd previously curated, those filled with hope, light, and the kind of poetic longing he's known for, were replaced with tracks that carry darker undertones. One song, in particular, Anymore by Jong Yoonji, appeared and disappeared within the same day. The lyrics? I pretend nothing's wrong, but I'm barely breathing. Not the kind of song Jungkook would normally share without context, but in this new reality, where everything he does feels layered with subtext, nothing is dismissed as coincidence. The psychological weight of this story becomes heavier when you remember. This isn't just a scandal. This isn't just gossip. It's the unraveling of an identity in real time, one that has been groomed, curated, monetized, and elevated into a symbol. Jungkook isn't just the youngest member of BTS. He's a global phenomenon, a billion-dollar brand. And in that context, what happens when the person behind the brand begins to pull back the curtain? A theory gaining traction among fans is that Jungkook is facing the idol paradox in its most extreme form. The paradox is simple. The more you are loved, the less you belong to yourself. And if Switzerland was the moment that paradox became unbearable, then perhaps Papion wasn't just a warning. Perhaps it was a choice. There's a reason the term Papion resonates so deeply. In French, it means butterfly, a symbol of transformation, freedom, and, paradoxically, fragility. Was the message Jungkook received metaphorical? Was it literal? Could it be both? If the butterfly effect teaches us that one small moment can ripple into a massive change, then we must ask, what changed in Jungkook that night? Let's go deeper. Another video quietly surfaced. A shaky clip filmed near the Zurich Opera House, just hours after Jungkook left the press event. It's blurry, dimly lit, but you can just make out a figure, his height, his walk unmistakable. He's not accompanied by staff. He's alone. He stops by the edge of a fountain, looks up at the statue above him, and then suddenly lowers himself to a crouch. It's not dramatic. It's not performative. It's human, vulnerable, raw. He stays there for a full minute before rising and walking off. Whoever filmed the video didn't caption it. They simply uploaded it with one word. Lost? What was he thinking in that moment? What was he processing? Who was he becoming? There is another layer to this story that few have dared to speak about. The possibility that Jungkook was never supposed to receive the message at all. A misrouted file. A failed firewall.
A leak. A mall.
The possibilities are endless. But if the system that surrounds him was built to protect, not just him, but the empire he's part of, then this breach represents more than a glitch. It represents danger. Think about it. A global superstar, conditioned from the age of 15 to trust the team, the schedule, the system. What happens when that trust is shattered?
Who does he turn to?
Who does he question? And how much truth is he allowed to share before consequences begin to escalate? This brings us to a chilling observation. Jungkook's Weverse posts have grown not just sparse, but unusually cryptic. One post simply read, "Dreams aren't always silent. Some scream." It stayed live for 23 minutes before being deleted. The fandom exploded, but the agency said nothing. Again, and in that nothing, the fear grows, because this isn't just about fan speculation or clickbait rumors anymore. It's about patterns, about shifts, about the invisible fences that seem to be tightening around one of the most visible humans on Earth. Where does this end? Does it end with a tell-all confession? A brave stand against the machinery? Or does it end in silence? In Jungkook retreating deeper into the image, smiling on cue while the truth stays buried under perfectly pressed suits and carefully prepared scripts. We don't know yet, but we're watching. We're not watching to consume. We're watching to protect, to bear witness. Because sometimes, the only power the public has is to refuse the narrative that's been handed to them. To question the version of events that sounds too polished, too perfect, too convenient. And so we return, full circle, to the question that sparked this entire unraveling. What really happened to Jungkook in Switzerland? Was it a glitch, a betrayal, a wake-up call, or the first step in a transformation he's only just begun? No matter what the truth is, it's coming. Slowly, in fragments, in whispers. And maybe that's the most important revelation of all. Not every truth explodes. Some truths unfold, butterfly-like, quietly, delicately, beautifully, until one day you realize everything has changed, and you are watching the metamorphosis all along. Will be here. Eyes open, ears listening, waiting for the day Jungkook spreads his wings, not for performance, but for escape.